So I really wanted to know, how does this process work? Like, how did this happen? How did we get this process that was described in one chapter of the book? And then it created this life-changing epiphany. And he explains that these are all based on universal principles. So I was like, how do these work? I needed to know how these work. So I started reading all of his books. The Values Factor. It's an awesome book for understanding people's values. The Gratitude Effect. It's an amazing book for starting to have those epiphanies, starting to see things in a new light. The Heart of Love. He talks about relationships, and he talks about he goes through the Demartini method again in a more expanded version, and he also includes a grief method, a Demartini method that applies to grief, which is completely different than the regular Demartini method. So I continued digging and learning about the Demartini method. Then I after reading all of his books, I started going to YouTube and listening to all of his interviews, which there are a lot. He probably has thousands of interviews. Each one's about an hour. I've listened to about 200 hours of his YouTube interviews where he tells incredible stories, and he describes how how he discovered his method. Each time I listened to a new interview, I'd gain a new piece of information, a new piece of the puzzle. Then after a few years, I actually decided I need to get certified. So I took his Demartini Method facilitator training. And I'd also taken some coaching and some training from another one of his master facilitators. Putting this all together, anyways, I've gained a deep understanding of the Demartini method, and I have a deeper understanding of how that epiphany was created. And taking all of that information and combining it with other teachers, other spiritual teachers, people like David Hawkins, who wrote Force versus Power and Letting Go, and he created the map of consciousness. So now I've connected the Demartini method and figured out how that relates to the map of consciousness. Then I've also learned from other teachers such as Byron Katie. Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. She also has a super amazing, powerful process that can reverse limiting beliefs. And that also relates to the map of consciousness again, and it relates to the Demartini method again. And what I realized is all of these methods are questions, and all of these questions are helping you to break your own bias, to help you to see more than what you can see initially. So what you can see now, so for example, we can only see a certain spectrum of light. We can only hear a certain spectrum of sound. And we're biased within those millions of bits of information. We're only taking in a small slice of information out of millions of bits of information. So what these questions do is they actually help us to open our awareness to take in new information. And that can be from the present moment, from the challenges that you're going through now, or it could be in the past where we have a memory from the past that we only are recalling half of it, like with my dad, and it helps us to recall the other subconscious parts of those memories. And going back to Demartini method for grief, after being exposed and seeing other facilitators, what they can do, there are grief techniques. The grief process can take someone who's in grief and take them through the process, and within an hour or two, their grief is completely cleared. And most people cannot wrap their heads around that.